Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Desi Mom Hustle. I am so excited to introduce you to a phenomenal woman who's basically a superhero in mom jeans. And this is a person whom I've known since we were knee high, and that's my childhood friend, Deenaz. So it's like she's just not my old friend, but she's like a total powerhouse. By day, she's a brilliant mind, a PhD candidate, and an inspiring teacher. When she's not hitting the books or shaping young minds, she's an adventurer at heart. Dinaz is a backpacking mom who hits the trails with her little one in tow, a pet mom, and she is a total fitness enthusiast who keeps herself and everyone around her motivated and moving. And if that is not impressive enough, Dinaz is also the founder of her own startup, which is backpacking with Indian Mama. She's created a space for moms and babies to explore the wonders of backpacking together. Let's talk to her. Let's talk to a Desi mom who juggles it all and makes it look so effortless. Let's begin the show.
Dinaz, would you describe how a typical work day looks for you? Juggling work and family responsibilities and uh, your child.
A typical day begins very, very early for me. I think it for most moms is the same situation. For me too, it begins around 5:30 in the morning. My daughter goes to school around 7, so before 7,
That's early.
yeah, it's very early, so I can't even like begin to start my day before I send her off to school. So my day starts after 7 once she leaves. Then I get a bit of like a window to kind of do anything I want for that 1.5 hours, whether it's like working out or whether it's just going for a walk or whether it's just sitting with a cup of tea. I use that 1 hour, and then post that from say 9 o'clock or something. That's when I start my work because currently I'm writing my thesis, so I'm at home most of the time, and I'm writing actively. So 9 to 2ish or sort of thing, I try to work, of course, with breaks. But after that, it's like once she's back home, it's back to me and my daughter again, and then managing the house. So in the evenings, mostly we try to either do an activity or if she has homework, we finish all of that. So it's just a very, very typical normal day. Some would call it very
This
boring because weekdays I don't do anything much.
this is the same for all of us, isn't it? Like all moms have a very very typical day of like how you described. Uh, if you had to tell me about if you have any personal rituals or routines that help you de-stress, recharge, because I know you're doing a lot, you're juggling a lot. You organize these backpack trips which I spoke about in the introduction. You love traveling. How do you like deal with probably the anxiety that sets in by not doing things, or like being overwhelmed?
Uh, I wouldn't say I've gotten rid of my anxiety because I'm still, full of anxiety at most times, just like anybody else would. But yeah, given that at this point in my life, I do have a few responsibilities. There's personal responsibilities as well as professional. So I am trying to use these stressors, like in the sense my only de-stressor nowadays is of course putting in an exercise routine because that's something that's really really helping me, and that's something that I've realized when I don't do, I feel extremely foggy in the brain and I'm not able to work out, and I'm always thinking of other things, and the thesis is not coming through, or I'm thinking of another person and I'm like having these bad thoughts. So I think exercise for me has been a huge game changer in terms of my mental health and anxiety. The other thing is, of course, like you said, backpack with mom trips. Whenever I have a window of, say, a break of about 15 days or so, that is when I always plan a trip because that's the only thing that's actually keeping me sane during this PhD. Otherwise, I mean, hats off to backpack with mom and all the mothers that come along with it because that's such a good
I'm
break for
sure.
me, that when I come back, I'm motivated to kind of start working again.
A follow-up question from that. I have seen you, I mean, because I know you, I've seen, how you started off with your exercise journey. Or, I mean, I would put you in the category of, a maybe a fitness enthusiast? Because I have seen you religiously do it for close to 2 years now. Like I remember you talking about this in October 22.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, I'm sure all of us, all moms, all working moms, would want to know how do you stick to doing it every day? I mean, you said it's a motivator for you, but when you started off, how did you, stick to that routine that no, I have to do it. I don't want to sleep, I don't want to do something else, but I have to get up and do it.
It began for me because I started getting very ill with my lifestyle that I had, which was, purely desk job and traveling in between on and off. But I was getting these complications, lifestyle related, like migraines. And migraines I had an issue with a long time ago. But then I had blood pressure for the first time.
Oh my God.
I felt very bloated all the time. I had problems with, with my gut and everything. So that's when I realized that yes, these are things that can maybe be controlled. Because I went to a doctor and they said that, you're all your life you've been like relatively moderately healthy. So there's no reason for you to suddenly have hypertension because, that's not something that,
True,
you would pick up with your metabolism. So then I mean, it was my lifestyle. It was bad eating habits, poor sleeping patterns, and everything. So one fine day, I don't know what happened, but one fine day, I just started working out because I think one day, I was alone in the house and I had a bad migraine. And Ariana was with me, and she was about what, 6 years old at the time, no, sorry, 7 years old at the time. And then I couldn't even tell her to call my
oh my
friend
God.
when I was sick. I was so sick. And I wondered that this is a girl, she's at a stage where she might not even be able to remember my phone number or remember my friend's phone number or my husband's number who was posted away at that time. So how would she save my life if something were
True,
to happen?
true,
So that's when this thing started, that no, if I shouldn't do it for myself, I should do it for, the fact that, I want her to grow up to a healthy mother, and I want to have good habits so that I can do like daily things, but with a
true,
better energy. That was the main thing. It was not about weight loss. It was not about looking a certain way ever. It was only about curing my lifestyle habits, which were bad at that time. A lot of junk food, a lot of late nights and everything, poor sleeping patterns. I was traveling a lot and everything, so that kind of added to the
true,
bad eating habits and everything. So I just picked it up, and over the last 1 year and everything, I have kind of understood what my body, only my body composition, because I'm not a trainer or anything, so there's no advice to give at this point.
true, true,
So I understood my body composition. I did speak to a nutritionist. I did speak to a health coach at one point, where I kind of asked them what are macros, and how should you calculate them, what are
true.
calories, and what is there to know about eating good food versus, like they always say, bad food versus good food, and should you be starving or not. So the first thing that they told me was that stop starving and stop thinking that if you eat less food you will lose weight or you will
True.
get healthy, because the more you starve yourself, your body will go into a completely starvation mode, which will then trigger off other complications. And all of the weight that you think you will lose at one point will pile on the minute that you stop
Stop.
starving, because the cravings will come back equally, like more like stronger. So then I got a bit of an idea of a meal plan, in terms of, like, I was eating very heavy meals. I would go in for seconds, but now I don't. Like, I think we spoke one time and I was saying that
Yes, yes,
now I try to kind of consciously see what's on my plate, and I will eat more of the good stuff. And, like, of course, I do eat like junk. Of course, I do. I mean, that's a lifestyle decision, because the thing is, you cannot survive. Like, people like us, normally with jobs and families and everything, we are not fitness gurus or anything. So, why would we,
true.
give up on like simple pleasures of a pizza or a burger? Like, I don't want to do that. That would be criminal. So,
I
yeah.
know, like taking away the only happiness of your life.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like having biryanis and like
True,
shakes and everything. So I do indulge myself, but then now I have the realization कि ज़्यादा खाने से क्या होता है, and then like, in the sense कि if you
true,
can't balance it, what's the way? So along with a little bit of an exercise, I still don't work out every day. I still don't, because it's something that I'm not being able to follow, and I keep on spiraling. My like body also keeps on spiraling from, because after 35 a woman goes through so much and we are not the same anymore.
True, true,
So my body also keeps on fluctuating. So like 1 week of no workout and it shows. Like I can feel already, like the water coming back, and I'm me feeling like foggy again. So that's when I start again. So it's just
true.
been cycles and cycles of like trying to get back on track. The only thing which I'm motivated to do sometimes in the morning, most times, is waking up and working out. That's something that I really look forward to. The minute Ariana's on the bus, I'm like, okay, fine, this is my 1 hour. Just use it, and don't think of anything. And don't think of the maid's time. Don't think of the vegetables you have to buy. Don't think of anything else. Just focus on the workout, and then everything else will fall into place. So between 7 to like 8:39ish, I don't think about any. I'm trying not to think about anything else. I'm only and only focused on working out. After 9, I will deal with life. So that's what my thing has helped, I think. Yeah.
That is such a beautiful thing to say. I'm sure, like all of us, I mean, I have had, to come to this space, where self-love, exists, where, I need to do something for myself. I'm sure all moms struggle with this, finding time for themselves, finding time for self-love, doing something that you love, because we are constantly worrying, like you said, about what vegetables do I need to buy? What time is the maid coming in? I mean, it's always there. You can never get over it. I so agree. And I'm sure people will benefit from this one line, if nothing else. And coming back to your backpack thing. So, like you are, I mean, I see you being at so many places at the same time. It comes across like that. I'm sure you're not. Uh, you're writing your thesis, you're, almost raising your daughter alone because you're in a place where your husband was not there for the longest time. You're doing it with the support of your family members. You also organize these trips. You are also teaching alongside your thesis. So, when you're at so many places at the same time, do you get the mom guilt? Does it arise, and how do you deal with it, if it does? I'm sure it does.
Of course, who doesn't have mom guilt? I think it would take a superhuman with a heart of stone to not have mom guilt at this point in our lives. So with 2 kids, I think it must be double the amount of
It
worry,
is
concern, and everything. But yeah, I do have it. Initially, I used to be very, very paranoid about the fact that, okay, fine, if I left her for 1 hour or 2 hours or with people, but then, without anyone, how would she cope up and would she be okay without me? That's the one thing that I needed to make myself understand, that these children can survive without us. And these children actually thrive without us most of the times, because we tend to make them so dependent on us and our love and our idea of, okay, fine, this is what my child should be like, and not be like, in the sense, this is what my child needs in a day from her,
true,
from herself, for herself.
true,
So that idea, I think, once needed to be broken, and I was getting into that spiral of, okay, fine, I knew best what my daughter, this is like the way that she eats or she sleeps, and all of that. So once that idea was broken, because I could not handle everything at the same time, my
true,
parents,
true,
so I said, till the time she is with you, you make all the decisions and you give her whatever she wants, even if you whatever you want. Sorry, and even if it's bad for her or something, it's your decision. I will not question you or anything, because you know best at the time. The time that she's with me, I will take the decisions. So similarly, like with her father, also whatever time. And many times it's like, earlier it used to be like a battle between, okay, fine, no, but you don't know because you're not here anymore. So how do you know that she will like you? You बोले हाँ
true.
भाई मुझे रहने दो उसके साथ, तभी तो पता चलेगा कि उसको क्या पसंद आता है क्या नहीं.
Exactly.
So I just made peace with that fact, and once I did, I was like, fine, yeah, like they will manage, and they do manage. They come back, and
True,
then they miss you so much also in that time that they come back with a like renewed love for you. I don't know, I hope it's renewed love. But then, yeah, I mean, now I don't really have it, because now she's seen me so much outside home and away from her also, in bits and pieces, be it work or travel or whatever, that she's used to the fact that, okay, fine, mom will go, she'll go to work, but she'll come back. In the end, she'll come back.
true, true.
That's what I need to do.
I love how you've put this, that you need to let go of that control, that you have to control everything that happens in your kid's life.
Yeah,
You cannot do that. Like it's humanly impossible. And the fact that you let it go and let people control, like your parents do whatever they thought was right, or your husband do what he thought was right, and just letting go gave you so much of peace. I think this is something we all need to learn. We need to let go of things, let go of that control and say, okay, let them live their life and I'll live my life. That's a very good point. Uh, okay, another question that I've always wanted to ask you, always in the last few years. I know you've had to make some very difficult decisions when it came to your work, to your family, your career, your profession. How did you manage those times? They were difficult times.
yeah. So I think the difficult times came after I decided that I wanted to pursue an education after I got married. It started with my master's, with me moving out because being in the army and being an army wife, I was always attached to where he was posted, and all my uh, career aspirations were based on his posting, which is why
True,
I missed out on a lot in those 8 9 years that I was with him. I figured that I had lost a lot of my life and how much I could have progressed in those few years. And basic things, like I just had a graduation and everything, and I used to work with that one degree that I had, but it was always odd jobs where I would work and then leave, work and leave, and work and leave, and go on to the next station. And I figured I wasn't even enjoying it, and it was just like me. Okay, fine, I'm like the perfect army wife, and I'm hosting parties, and I'm doing all of it, and everything is going great. But at the end of the day, I was not satisfied with the way life was going on for both of us. In fact, I even Ashish would say, I think that we became very, like, we started bickering and fighting and everything, and then we realized it's also because of the fact that I was not happy internally. So,
true,
2013 is when I moved to Pune for my masters, and that was the first decision which was a difficult decision. After that, I think once I found the domain that I was interested in, which was media studies, and I found the fact that okay, fine, academics is a line that I can probably explore because it was not a line that I had ever explored. I was always in corporate before this. Um, After that interest came about, I figured that no, and I also enjoyed Pune because I had studied also for my undergraduate in
right,
there.
right,
I was very comfortable with the fact. Then off and on, we always stayed apart, or he would come for a posting and then leave, and so on and so forth. After my daughter was born, which is when I was doing my master's as well. After she was born, I again gave it a break for about 2 years because she was too little and I needed the help at that time.
true,
And I knew that I wouldn't be able to manage with an infant, like a newborn baby. So then I took a break of about 2 years, and again I started my sojourn to do a PhD and everything. Again, leaving shores, moving outside India for a few months, leaving that as well because of difficult decisions, of the fact that okay, fine, I could sustain myself, but I couldn't sustain a family with the amount of it
true,
was not affordable for me. So I took a decision. I quit the PhD, came back. Then I studied again. I started again in India, again moved to Pune where my husband was not posted. And then every time we sat down together, I said the same thing that, you know, it has to start from scratch again and again. Because every time that you take a break, it's not like, any other company or any other institution will honor the fact that, okay, fine, she's a mom, she's taking a break, okay, great. Like, we're just waiting for
true,
her to come whenever you can. It's not like that. The life moves on and the world moves
true,
on
true,
with or without you. So, either you catch up or you start from scratch again. So it's been so many times of me starting from scratch that now I feel like I've been I can be great at a startup, I think, because I always have the feeling that okay, fine, I'm going back to ABC, going back to ABC, going back to ABC to start this again and again. So yeah, there have been difficult decisions of being away from. I was very dependent on a lot of things, um, for my own personal life. For instance, I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know the basics of financial management because I was always very, very cocooned and everything before I was married and all of that. So, living alone and taking these difficult decisions has helped me grow so much. I mean, I would be scared of like sleeping alone sleeping in a house
Oh,
all alone, and how do I like even manage, and what if the bulb like goes, like breaks, what if my car goes back, who will fix it, what if there's no petrol? And I used to have these silly questions to for myself, and then I just did it, and I did it, and I did it, and I did it, and now I think after four, it's going to be 5 years next year in Jan, of
wow.
me living by myself, I mean with my daughter. But these 5 years has taught me what I have not learned at all in the last 30 years. I mean,
True,
not taught myself like basic financial management, basic life skills like cooking daily meals on a daily basis, just to feed like the family or feed myself even. Learning how to manage the day, how to manage time, work, go out. I used to think like these are things that I could never ever do, simple things, but I thought I wasn't cut out for that. I was like, okay, fine, the way you are, when you're 19 and you're married to an army officer with a great life, and
you
you're
were married at 19?
sorry, I was not. I met him at 19. I met him at 19. I was not married at 19. Just a
I was,
second.
I was, I
I'll
was
just shut.
mentally calculating. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just a sec. Yeah, sorry.
I was doing the mental calculation. I was like, were you married at 19? No, you were in Pune when you were 19.
No, 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 I wasn't. I wasn't. It feels like I was married only because it's the same person, so it doesn't matter when, So, but yeah, I was married pretty young, which is why I figured that these are things that I left for later. Like बाद में कोई बता देगा कि पैसे कैसे मैनेज करने होते हैं, गाड़ी कैसे चलानी होती है,
But you're
घर
doing so well. You're doing it now.
but yeah, so all of these things are things that I learned much later in life, and that too because of necessity. It's not because I wanted to do it, but because of necessity. And now I feel like that necessity has helped me grow so much that I can't
True,
imagine a life without freedom, without these basic life skills, and I can't imagine a life where someone needs to depend on someone else for basic things.
true, true,
So that's what I tell everyone, like before I couldn't do it, but I tell everyone that before when you're in your 20s, you have to learn how to manage these few things. And then only think about marriage, because, these are things we often ignore. In our generation, at least, we used to always like, sideline these kind of things.
true.
Think about, okay, job ho gaya, abhi shadi. And
You,
that's it.
you're settled, so शादी कर लेते हैं.
Shadi kar lete hain. So,
सब
I think
सीख
wisdom
जाएंगे.
came to me very late in my life.
So is this something that you would tell your younger self? Learn how to drive, learn how to cook.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would tell them not to go out of the way to, think that okay, fine, you need to compromise for other people, or you need to change yourself to fit into another's idea of you. That's something that I learned by
Interesting.
staying a lot with myself, because I live alone, so I'm spending all my time in solitude. So it's like me going through like the monk and the Ferrari, that whatever, that book again and again and again, like the alchemist again and again. So it's like me talking to myself and asking my questions, and often I'm sitting by the wall and asking, and it looks very bizarre because
I'm
I'm having
sure.
conversations. So I would totally like talk to a young Dinaz and tell her not to freak out so much, because I always used to think that I am not fitting in, maybe I am not right and they are right, and I need to mold myself according to someone else. And that's something that I totally gave up in the last 5-6 years, and that's really helped me. Secondly, I learned to say no, which I never used to. A lot of no's, and then I learned to stand up for myself. I used to always feel like, okay, fine, the person with the louder voice and the more gregarious attitude is right always, because what if he does something that I'll not be safe. But now I'm equally like loud, and I'm equally like fighting for myself, which I never used to do earlier. So I think all of these things come with age and come with bad experiences also.
True.
So yeah, I guess.
One last question before we, like close this. How I know you said, you explored teaching and you explored that this is something the getting into media studies and getting into your PhD. Did this happen by fluke, or were you looking at various options and you thought this was probably a safe option, Or is it because you've seen your mom doing this and you knew it was, you've seen how loved she is, how her students love her, how everybody else around her loves her. Was it also, did that motivate you to get into this industry?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. So the thing is, I always knew that my mom was very passionate about teaching, and I've seen her as a teacher for the last, say, 25 years that she's taught. And I always saw how hard her job was. I mean, it was not running a company; it was simply teaching children. But her job was, I think, one of the busiest jobs that that can ever be. In fact, any teacher's job. So yeah, that completely was in the back of my mind. But I can't say if I consciously chose teaching because of that. Teaching came to me a lot later. Are you getting a call, Taman?
No, I'm not. Let me just check. This is weird. This is weird. It was not my call.
Oh, really? Was
Yeah,
it an
it was
alarm?
no, it was somebody on the door and somebody outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe that's why. Yeah. So coming back, yeah, that definitely was inspiring for me, but it was not what I wanted to do. In fact, I wanted to do an MBA. I wanted to go do a corporate job all my life, and I had seen a lot of people say that your corporate job is the best career like one can have, and you can reach to stupendous heights and buy this and buy that and be happy and everything. And yeah, I started with that. So I consciously went and like studied for an MBA and everything. I did one also, which was distance and didn't make much of a difference. But after that, after my masters, I didn't pick media studies per se, but I felt like it would like, let's explore mass comm and journalism, because it's also something I was like consciously looking at every day around me. So it's
True.
a subject that I had never ever explored before PG. So I went in. I really liked the department. I thought I would apply to a couple of departments, but I really liked my own department and the way that they conducted, the entrance examination. And I realized that this is not one of those private institutes that they just fleece you for money, and they will just teach you all kinds of like nonsense for 2 years, give you a degree, and say, bus jao ho gaya tumhara. This was kind of like a film school plus a media research school, so it had both. So that's what I really, really enjoyed, because I enjoyed cinema all my life, and I felt like, okay, fine, I would get a nice introduction to cultural studies, media theory, plus film studies. So these three coupled together became very interesting for me. And once I got into the field, I was like, okay, I think teaching didn't like really come to me. That was your question. But once I started doing the PhD, and then my HOD was like, okay, fine, now you're a fellow, you have to teach. This is like one of your responsibilities. So I said, what will I teach, ma'am? Like, I've never taught in my life. So she's like, teach my paper, take a couple of my modules, and I was like, how will I face all these children? There are 53 of them. What if they ask me questions? I wouldn't know about these things. And I thought she was mad by handling me her paper.
I'm sure.
But she was like, no, don't, just talk to them on the first day and get to know them and everything. So that's what, because I've also studied in the same department that I'm teaching at, it became very comfortable for me, because I knew the shape of the room. I knew what it was from the other side when I was looking at the teachers.
Right.
And what I never used to like, when they used to go into monologues, or they would just stand in one corner of the room and like just give like monologue after monologue. I hated it. So I thought that, okay, fine, let me just start by interacting. And they thought I was like one of them. Like, they thought I had come to do my masters with them. So they didn't
I'm
know.
sure.
And later I told them that, I'm also a student. I'm also studying along with you. I'm doing a PhD. You're in your masters. So we're kind of in the same boat. But I feel like because I've studied these concepts, maybe we can talk about them a little bit more. So I started like that. And then I tried to give them like real life examples. But now I feel like I genuinely enjoy talking about media. I genuinely enjoy interacting with a group full of young people who are ready with like so many opinions that are not the same as mine. Because we are always fighting in class, and there's always like contrary
I'm
opinions.
sure.
I love it. I love it. And now I feel like, okay, fine, maybe I can try this a little bit more.
That's really nice. Uh, and I have two things to ask you. One, uh, if you had to ask a question for the next guest that they have to answer, what would it be?
Um, 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 how are you uh, killing it uh, with your like current response? The same question that I think you asked me. I mean, how are you managing life with so many responsibilities at the same time? Because I know you'll pick someone who's also in like some ways. I think doing something that needs to be spoken about or something like that. So if they do, then my question would be the same: that how are you juggling so many responsibilities with the current, day and age? Like maybe she has young kids or he has young kids, so how are they doing it? I want to know from every parent how they are doing it, because I feel like I learn a lot. When I want to ask you also the same thing, like how are you managing? Because I know you have a full-time job and you have two children, so I don't know how you're feeling it, but I want to
I'll let you know. I'll probably interview myself someday.
know. You should do that.
That's nice. Thank you so much, Dinas, for doing this. Thank you for being my first guest. I know I've made you wait. I've made myself wait to do this because like when I look at the list of moms, friends I'm surrounded with, people who are doing a fantastic job of balancing their lives with without support, uh, doing their jobs, managing their kids, managing their households. When I have to pick one name, in all honesty, yours was the first name that came to my mind. And I was very sure you are the first person I want to talk to because you are you're out there on Instagram as well. You're talking about what you're doing. And that is something that, I think all of us should start doing, talk about what we're doing. You never know who's inspired from you, you never know who you motivate to do something different so they can make their lives different.
Yeah, that's an important thing that you said, because I feel I always used to be a very in fact I have a very small social circle even now, and I hate going out and talking to people. But on Instagram, I feel like I found my voice after many years of not having been a person who was outgoing, and now I feel like I can say things just because I want to say, like put out my opinion, or just because I feel like it might help someone else who's also going through the same phase. Like, for instance, things after a baby, or even the choice to travel alone, or eating right, or all of these things. I don't do it because, oh, you know what, this is my life, look at me. I don't want to do that at all. I just want to tell people that, okay, fine, maybe you're also going through the same thing. You tell me your thing and I'll tell you my thing. And I feel like it's really opened up my own personality, made me receptive to a lot of feedback. Like I got to get a lot of DMs from people who are very supportive, and then of course there's the odd DM of people who are not at all supportive, and that also teaches me a lot every time. I feel like I've learned so much about personalities. I only used to pick and choose friends, like how you pick and choose friends, but because of Backpack with Mom and because of Instagram, I'm now continuously faced with a like barrage of like personalities, varied personalities, like, and I never thought that I would be friends with some of these personalities, which I now am. Uh,
Which is amazing.
yeah, and which I never thought I was capable of. So I think Instagram has really like given me a lot. Definitely given me a voice.
We need to do another episode on how you manage things. I think 30 minutes is definitely not
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
I still have a lot of questions to ask you. Maybe, once I do, interviews with maybe say five or six more moms, maybe, we can do a roundtable of sorts and, all of you can answer
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely. That would be very interesting. In fact, I have not seen anyone do like a podcast like that.
And thank you so much. I'll send you the edits once it's done. I'll send you the other things.
Huh?
And I'll post about it everywhere on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever. I'll just share it with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much on a serious note. It was very
Thank
nice to
you.
see you after very long. And listen, come to Pune. Come to Pune.
I
No, I'm home only. I'm always
thank you. Bye bye. You too.